So it's about being able to be responsive to whatever tech is offered to you or is available to us. And there's so much. So can I slow down enough as a leader or as a leadership team to be discerning about this? So I'm not reactive. I'm not just going to automatically take it on. And I'm also not going to automatically go, no, thank you, that is not for us. So can I be discerning about it and give ourselves the time? Like we do with any kind of program or approach that we might take on in schools, the best schools and best leaders are discerning about that. Is it a good fit for us? I think AI is also an awesome tool, like an administrative assistant. And what do I do with the time that it saves me? So am I using it as a human, either for filling my own cup or to be in touch with the other humans in my organization? Using it as a tool who gives us space to be more human and connect more with our humans.
Welcome to Trailblazing Schools, the podcast for educational leaders at the intersection of leadership, complexity, and intelligent technology. I'm Trudy Graham. This is a space for leaders navigating uncharted territory. We explore strategic leadership, ethical innovation, and how AI can strengthen the deeply human work of education. Oh, Katrina Bourke, welcome to the Trailblazing Schools podcast. I have been wanting to have this conversation with you for such a very long time.
Well, here we are. I love it. I can't wait. You and I have terrific conversations, so let's go.
Yes, but we've not recorded before and we certainly haven't put it out to the public, so here we go.
Yeah.
Now, Katrina, that I start the podcast in a little unconventional way. I hope you've asked your favourite AI to write a bio for you.
Yeah, I loved this beginning. Do you want it? Are you ready for it?
Yes, please.
I thought this was such a good idea. Okay, so Katrina Bourke is an Australian leadership coach, speaker, and author of Grounded. She works with school leaders who care deeply about their people and sometimes quietly doubt themselves. Through her Grounded leadership framework, Katrina helps leaders decide what matters, explore who they are, honour what sustains them, and lead with courage and calm. Her work is practical, human, and steadying. She believes you are not broken, you are full. When she's not facilitating huddles or writing her weekly post-it note, you'll find her walking, reading, or tending her own sacred ground at home in Melbourne.
Wow.
I mean, we're done, aren't we?
I'm glad it mentioned your book. How does that land for you?
Yeah, I thought when I initially asked it that question, I thought, well, this will be interesting to see because I use AI. I use ChatGPT for that, and I use it as a tool, as you know. And I thought, well, this will be interesting to see how it works behind the scenes and what it gathers up about me and what I was a little bit trepidatious because sometimes I just ask it random questions. I did wonder. I didn't edit that at all. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good summary of the work me.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't say a lot about. It does a little bit, doesn't it? Walking, reading, or tending her own sacred ground. Yeah, I reckon it's a pretty good summary.
Yeah. So I'm feeling pretty confident now about what it's going to say next, but what does it suggest that as a guest on this podcast about trailblazing and leading into uncharted territory, what does it say your core message for us should be?
Well, this is a few lines long. Is that all right?
That's fine.
So trailblazing is not about being fearless. It's about being anchored. Leading into uncharted territory will stir doubt. It will surface your stories about not being ready, not being enough, not being certain. That doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means that you are human. The work is not to eliminate uncertainty. The work is to build your sacred ground so that you can stand steady while everything else moves. You do not need to feel brave before you act. You need to know what matters. You need to honor your values. You need to move from integrity and not impulse. Trailblazers are not loud, they are aligned. And when you are aligned, even uncertainty becomes navigable.
Wow.
How does that fit with your understanding of
Oh,
trailblazing? That's what I wondered when I read it.
can I tell you, I just had full body emotions because I know
Yeah,
your work. Yeah. Whole body goosebumps, Katrina, because it's so powerful when you really listen to those words and take in what. And I'll try not to get emotional, right? But
I know. I love
when you
that. Yeah.
when you take in everything that school leaders right now are facing, and you've walked that path, and I've walked that path. We have that shared experience in two very different states, two different systems, and yet some things are the same, right?
Mm, mm,
Yeah. So no, it resonates for me, and I
yeah.
thought that and that's why I've been wanting to have this conversation for a long time, because
Mm.
this recorded conversation, because I think there's a lot to be gained from it and to see things and think about things in a different way.
Yeah, there's lovely alignment, isn't there?
Yes,
Mm,
absolutely.
mm.
Yeah,
If I can I talk about that emotion for a minute?
of course.
Because I think we'll talk about this as we go on in the conversation. I reckon it's great that that has an emotional reaction and that we don't scoot past it because, and it, it's human work, isn't it? Leadership and part of it, being a human is the emotion and being able to hold that in a way that um, it's that thing about vulnerability. We can be vulnerable. It doesn't mean we're oversharing or we're breaking down. It's just human, and I reckon that's an awesome place to start our conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And you, like I just said, have had leadership experience in schools, and you've coached many, many, many leaders individually and in groups, facilitated group huddles. And I'm really curious, with all of that experience, Katrina, what was it? And it's probably in the emotional space if we stay there, perhaps. But what were you noticing in leaders that made you feel something needs to change?
Well, I think there's a story that I love to share, and this is about a principal who I coached and who I still coach. And I was at his school one day for a coaching conversation. I was waiting in his office, and he was making his way there. And I've come to call him, based on this story, I call him the spinning principal. So I was sitting in his office waiting for him, and I could see him making his way across the playground, ducking basketballs and dodging kids and all the rest of it. And as he came towards me, I watched a staff member come out to him and stop and have an interaction. I couldn't hear him, but my school leader, my deputy principal muscle memory kicked in, and I knew that someone in that interaction had said, "Hey, have you got a minute?" That fast paced, "Got a minute?" And so they stopped and they had an interaction, and he continued. And this happened two more times before he got to where I was in the office. And I watched him step in the doorway, and he stood in the doorway, and his eyes were spinning, it looked like. And in fact, it looked like his whole body was kind of spinning in that doorway. And I thought to myself, now, how on earth are we going to have a coaching conversation of rigor and where we're really going to flesh out ideas, etc., when you're in that state? And of course, he's not the only one. He's a great leader. It wasn't any failure on his behalf. But I realised that that spinning happens everywhere, all around us, certainly in school leadership. And the bit you said, what made you think things need to change? What I started to tune into as I would talk to leaders is that they were internalising it and they were harshly judging themselves. So they were going, well, what's wrong with me that I can't keep up with this? Or have I suddenly lost it? Am I no longer cut out for this? Because they were feeling the impact of that spinning.
Yeah, yes. Yes, absolutely. So, was there a moment when your thinking really shifted?
Yeah, well, so as a result of that, I was like, okay, so how do we help them? I was of the belief, I am of the belief that we can't stop that external spinning, that bombardment, that urgency, that school leader feeling of there's always someone at the door, be it literal or metaphorical. We can't stop all of that. So how do we help the leader stay steady within that, stay grounded? And then, so I was working with a network of school principals, and you will know this story. I was working with this network and we did what we did. And during the session, I paired them up with a colleague and invited them to go and have a coaching conversation. And when they came back from the conversation, which was hard to get them back, let me tell you, put all these school leaders together and they got lots to talk about. Anyway, when they came back, I said to them, so what was helpful? And, there's that obligatory silence where people think, was someone going to say something? And one of the principals bravely stood up and she said, what was helpful was to discover that I'm not the only one running a shit show. I hope it's all right to swear on your podcast, Trudy. And of course, the room
Absolutely.
erupted. Everyone laughed.
Every principal right now listening's going, yeah, I've got one of those.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, so the room laughed, and exactly that, because and there was laughter, but it kind of had an edge to it. They were kind of there was release in the laughter, and it was in that moment that I thought, well, not only do we have to help them withstand that pressure, but we have to help normalize the stories and the feelings so that people can get away from that internalizing of I'm not doing this right, or I've lost it, or whatever it is. We're all doing our very best. It's back to that human center.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just raw and real and it just resonates, right? It just
Yeah, yeah.
and you've just taken me back to when I first encountered that story. It was actually in your book and I've got it. Grounded, and you've mentioned grounded, it just comes out in your conversation, Katrina. So it might be a great point here around what is the core idea at the heart of your work in Grounded?
Yeah, well, I think it's that. I think it's that we can't, it's almost that control the controllables. We can't stop the spinning. We can't stop the urgency, the bombardment, the stuff you never saw coming, the stuff you did not have on your bingo card when you got up that morning that turns out to happen during the day. We can't stop that. So rather, how do we prepare ourselves to be able to withstand that, to stay grounded and stay showing up as the leader that we want to be within that, to not get pulled into reactivity amidst that. And I think, I think the other layer to that is understand and lead thyself in order to be a better, to better understand and lead others. I think those two for me go hand in hand and are right there at the center of Grounded.
Yeah, and you just named it so beautifully, that day-to-day grind, right? The stuff that just rises every day to meet you, and you have to meet it where it's at. So I'm curious to hear then, how do you see this playing out for leaders in their day-to-day experience?
Well, let me take you back to the spinning principle. When he was standing in the doorway and spinning, I watched him do something we talked about doing. He paused and he kind of just collected himself, and I knew what he was doing because, as I said, we talked about it, but he was mentally making the shift into this new space. So he was packing aside whatever those 3 interactions had been, and he'd given himself the time and the grace. And it wasn't a lot of time, but I could see him mentally park that in order to show up for that next space. And I think that's a very powerful, valid strategy. And what I love about it is it's a little micro moment.
Yeah.
It's like a thin slice. And that's how I reckon it shows up for the leaders who do this. They're not perfect and they don't get it right all the time. But they've just got these little micro ways of coming back to Grounded. They'll get smashed, but then they'll come back to Grounded. They'll make a mistake but they've got a way, they've got that awareness, that understand and lead self, they can bring themselves back to grounded.
Yeah, yeah. If this conversation resonated and you're exploring how to strengthen leadership in your school, network or system, I invite you to connect. Visit trudygraham.com.au/connect to explore working together. If you're ready to move from insight to implementation, that's where we begin. And I want to explore, your thoughts too, Katrina, around what's important for leaders now as technology accelerates. Because one of the pieces I believe in is, the more high tech we have in our lives, the more important it is to have high touch, that centering on our human experience. So, yeah, I'd just love to hear a bit more around your thoughts in that space with grounded in the world that we are in now with all the advances happening in technology and AI as we started this conversation.
Yeah, well, I think my thoughts on that are it's another alignment. I love that high tech, high touch, and that's probably where I think to begin with grounded. So it's about being able to be responsive to whatever tech is offered to you or is available to us. And there's so much. So can I slow down enough as a leader or as a leadership team to be discerning about this? So I'm not reactive. I'm not just going to automatically take it on. And I'm also not going to automatically go, no, thank you, that is not for us. So can I be discerning about it and give ourselves the time? Like we do with any kind of program or approach that we might take on in schools, the best schools and best leaders are discerning about that. Is it a good fit for us? And then if it is deemed a good fit and we take it on, I think AI is also an awesome tool, like an administrative assistant. And if we can take it on, let's say in that way, then what do I do with the time that it saves me? So am I using it as a human, either for filling my own cup or to be in touch with the other humans in my organisation? If that's giving me some time, can I actually get to the tea room for lunch a couple of days a week now? Or, using it as a tool who gives us space to be more human and connect more with our humans. You say it much more elegantly when you say high tech, high touch. That's how I think about it.
I'm just loving right now the thought of using AI so you can actually have a lunch break. Now, there's a concept for a lot of school leaders, right? Like, what is that? And no, it's not that tucker you put in at about 3:00 in the afternoon. That's when most of us are having lunch, right? Yeah, get it earlier in the day. Anyways, thanks, Katrina. Yeah. Thoughtful and considered and intentional decision making in the space.
Yeah, but you've got to slow down, don't you? Maybe that's what I should have said before when you said, what's at the heart of your work? I reckon it's that. It's slow down. You've got to slow down enough to be thoughtful and considered.
That just reminded me of this little baby in the sticker. Sorry, and yes, I have to remember there's people that are listening and not watching. Slow down is a little sticker that Katrina sent me when I got her book. And just as I think about the book too, Grounded, a practical path for calm and confident leadership, I can tell you there are a lot of principals in my world and school leaders that have this book right now and are loving it. I have to say, when I first read it, I described it as a love letter for leaders because it just speaks to the soul, right? And just your experience and, the work. The emotional load, the cognitive load, it's all recognised in the pages. So I just highly recommend it for school leaders.
Thank you,
to just
Trudy.
take it in every way and come back to it as well. You've got amazing journaling prompts. It's a reflective piece. And I think at the end of it, two things. You can't just read it once. I think it's a multiple revisit type of text. And the other thing is I think you will be a different leader if you put the work in.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I love to see the Post-it note sticking out of your copy then. I'm having lunch this afternoon. I'm going to visit a principal this afternoon. And she said to me, wait till you see what I've done to your beautiful book. She said, I've scribbled all over it. I've got post-it notes everywhere. So I can't wait to see that, because my favorite books, I treat them like that too. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, Katrina, if a school leader who's listening wanted to take one small step aligned with your work, where would you suggest they start?
Start small. And I would get them to think about what even is grounded. What does it mean for me to be grounded? And when was the last time I was grounded? And what helps me be grounded? Identify those things. That's almost like one list. And then create a new list on the other side of the page and go, so how often do I do those things? And so let me make it practical. So for me, getting grounded, my favorite two ways to do it are either floating and splashing around in the ocean or bushwalking. Now, I can't do either of those things on the daily. In fact, weekly is a great week if I can fit one of those in. However, there's this concept of thin slicing, and I can thin slice them. So I can have my coffee in the morning, having a wander through my backyard under the trees in the veggie garden. There's a little bit of that nature feeling. Or if I'm organised enough, I can stop on the way to work and just stop at the ocean and maybe get out and stand on the sand for a minute or whatever. So I can't do the big job. But can I just take a little slice of that? So that's what I would say to a principal who is going, well, okay, how do I do this grounded? Work out what it means for you, what makes you grounded, and then how do I get little bits of that throughout my day?
I love that. That's thin slicing, because, again, that's the reality, right? You mightn't get an hour, but how could you get 5 minutes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
On that, I used to do like a mindful playground duty. So
Okay.
outside with the kids, you have to do the playground duty, but I would, as well as, monitoring students at play, I would also be mindfully looking at what was happening in the environment around me. So noticing the
Mm,
wind, the sun, the birds, those sorts of things.
mm,
Again,
mm.
nature, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah, that's a
how do
great
you
idea.
how do you find those pockets in the day where you can intentionally build it in? That's fantastic. What would you hope school leaders feel after engaging with your work?
I hope they feel affirmed. That's how I hope they feel. I talk a lot about in being an imperfect human. And I just would love that. Nothing makes me happier than at the end of a coaching conversation or the end of like a group, a huddle day, that people kind of walk away with a smile on their face going, yeah, I feel good about this. And in a really genuine way. And of course, leaders and teachers, educators, we want practical things, don't we? But to be able to go to take that practically, something for yourself, I reckon that would be awesome. So affirmed and perfectly imperfect, that would be great.
Yeah. Yep. What a gift.
Mm.
Across this podcast, you'll hear leaders navigating complexity with courage and clarity. If you'd like to see how that looks in practice, visit trailblazingschools.com/field notes. These field notes capture real stories from school leaders using AI as a thinking partner, strengthening leadership, not replacing it. It's free, practical, and designed to prompt your own next step. You'll find it at trailblazingschools.com/field notes. And as we close out this part of the conversation, Katrina, what would you want a leader to remember when things feel overwhelming? Because we know that happens just about every other day.
Mm. Oh, what came to mind was my mum used to say this all the time, this too shall pass. Or maybe my other principal's reminder, you're not the only one. In fact, I wish I had them here. I had some little postcards made up that say exactly that on the front. You're not the only one. And then when you flip it over, it says, everyone's running a shit show. So maybe it's remembering that I'm not the only one. I'm not alone in
Yeah.
this.
Oh. And again, people are probably just having a little chuckle right now. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Now, Katrina, I love to close out the show with my closing question ritual. It's got nothing about work. It's just about you.
Oh, okay, good.
So I would love to know, what's the best kept secret about where you are?
Oh, well, it's such a secret that I haven't really explored it myself, but I do plan to. Right near where I live, there is a marine coastal park, and apparently it is excellent snorkeling. So it is a goal this year to go. I've got the scuba gear. I'm ready to go and do some, no, not scuba gear, snorkeling gear. Yeah. So a marine park.
Well, that crosses over both of those things that ground you right there, right? That's a must do. And
Exactly.
that's a bit
Exactly.
like me never been to Great Keppel Island after living, in the Capricorn area for 25 years.
Uh-huh.
That's another story. Katrina, what's a book or film you'd recommend, and why does it matter to you?
Ooh.
And I'll recommend Grounded on your behalf.
Oh, thank you.
But what would you recommend?
I'm going to recommend a film, and it's probably I guess you would call it a Christmas movie, and I watch it every year. It's a tradition I have. It's called The Family Stone. Do you know it? Okay, so this what I love about this movie is it's about an imperfect family, and all of the characters in the movie are flawed and imperfect, but they make it work. And I don't know, it feels like a very real movie. Um, it's not one of those Christmas movies that you maybe see on your streaming service that just it's all a little bit sweet. This is a little raw and imperfect, and I think that just fits what I value as well.
Okay, we're putting that one on the must-find list, must-watch list. Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a nice surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious to hear, what's something that brings you comfort or joy at the end of a long week?
Can you guess? It's going for a walk. In fact, I will be doing it. I've had a big week this week of lots of new teams coming on board, and I love it, and I'm exhausted. And so, after my meeting this afternoon, my final meeting of the week, I'm taking the dog, and we are going bush for the afternoon.
How lovely. Your best companion. That's great. Great way to finish the week. Now, Katrina, I didn't ask, where can school leaders find you?
Oh, my website, katrinabourke.com, is probably the easiest place to go, central place. And, I'm on all the socials. Probably LinkedIn's the best place to find me, Katrina Bourke.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you for being part of Trailblazing Schools. I love it.
I loved it. It was great. Thanks, Trudy.
Thank you. You've been listening to Trailblazing Schools with me, Trudy Graham. If this episode brought someone to mind, share it with them. You'll find further reflections, practical resources and leadership tools in the show notes. Until next time, lead with courage, seek clarity and keep trailblazing.